You're watching Just the News. I'm Amata Balachandra. Let's get straight to our top story. India has today said that it would not attend the opening or the closing ceremony of the Beijing Winter Olympics. Now, this was after China made a PLA soldier involved in the Galwan Valley clash as a torch-bearer. India has described China's choice of a PLA soldier as regrettable. Now, following this, Prasar Bharati CEO has said the Doordarshan Sports channel will also not telecast live the opening and closing ceremonies of the Winter Olympics. Now, it's been a year and a half since the troops clashed in a violent hand-to-hand combat in the Galwan Valley, resulting in casualties on both sides. Meanwhile, the center has said that reports in the international media that alleged a vaccination fraud are not only misleading but, and I quote, are completely ill-informed and without any basis, end quote. Now, reports claim that people are being fraudulently registered as double vaccinated without receiving both doses. In a statement, the center has said, and I quote, there have been some media reports in international media alleging a vaccination fraud and further claiming that people are being fraudulently registered as double vaccinated. These reports have been also alleged that the vaccination figures were being manipulated. It is clarified that such media reports are not only misleading but are completely ill-informed and without any basis, end quote. Meanwhile, WHO's chief scientist Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, in an interview with NDTV, has said that herd immunity to fight COVID is a foolish idea. Now, she also said that the WHO has always maintained this stand. While talking about the new Omicron subvariant, she said that BA.2 is more potent than BA.1 and its transmission is more than other subvariants. Now, it's taking a grip, she said, in some countries, especially India and Denmark. On how current vaccines against COVID are responding to Omicron, she said that lab-level studies show antibodies are less likely to neutralize the new variant, even less than the Delta variant, which was already less responsive to the vaccine than the previous variants that were taken into account while developing these vaccines. A look now at COVID numbers in India. India has reported 1.72 lakh new COVID cases and 1,008 deaths in the last 24 hours. The daily positivity rate is at 10.99%. Delhi has reported 2,668 new COVID cases. Kerala has reported 42,677 new COVID cases, a slight decrease in the number of cases when compared to yesterday's number. Yesterday, it had reported more than 50,000 cases. Karnataka has reported 16,436 new COVID cases. Interestingly, Bengaluru has reported slightly lower numbers. It's at 6,640 new COVID cases. Mumbai has maintained a steady number of COVID cases in the last couple of days. It's reported 827 new COVID cases in the last 24 hours. The Health Ministry has said that 16 states or union territories have achieved 100% of first dose of vaccination coverage, with 4 states or union territories between the 96 to 99% mark. It also has gone on to say that 4 states in the country are recording a decline in the number of cases. However, Kerala and Mizoram are witnessing an increase in the number of cases and the positivity rate as well. Meanwhile, Singapore's Health Sciences Authority has approved Pfizer's antiviral pill Paxlovid for the treatment of COVID. Now, in a statement, the HSA has said, and I quote, Paxlovid is the first COVID-19 oral treatment authorized for use in the state for the treatment of mild to moderate cases among adults at high risk of severe disease, end quote. And this was a report by Reuters. New Zealand, meanwhile, has announced that it will reopen its borders in a phased manner, while its citizens in Australia will be allowed to return home from the 27th of February without having to quarantine at government facilities. Tourists from visa-free countries will be allowed from July. The borders will also remain closed for travelers from the rest of the world until October. Moving away from COVID now on to the hijab row that's going on in the state of Karnataka. In a viral video, 20 girls of Government Junior College in Udupi's Kundapur could be seen pleading they were denied entry in the college for wearing hijabs. Now, this is what the video shows. The students could be heard saying in that particular video, and I quote, "There is no rule against wearing hijab. We have just 2 months to the exams," end quote. Now, the students stood at the gates for 6 hours until classes ended. Now, according to NDTV, after a group of girls refused to take off their hijab in school, in class on Wednesday, some 100 boys arrived in saffron shawls. Now, according to officials, college rules allow students to wear hijab in class, but not during lessons. Now, this is the second such incident and confrontation after protests have started over a month ago at PU Girls College in Udupi. Now, reacting to this, the Home Minister of the state of Karnataka has made a statement. He's responded saying that children should neither wear the hijab nor saffron shawls when they go to school, even as he directed the police to watch religious outfits in the coastal region where confrontation is currently brewing. Now, he told reporters today, and I quote, "Children don't go to schools to practice their religion. They should go to school thinking they're children of Bharat Mata. Inside a school compound, there should not be a hijab or saffron shawls," end quote. He also went on to say, and I quote, "There are religious organizations that seem to have different ideas when it comes to India's unity, so I have asked the police to watch them," end quote. For a month now, 8 Muslim girls have been protesting for their right to attend class wearing headscarves at a government women's pre-university college in Udupi. Moving on to UP elections right now, AIMIM leader Asaduddin Owaisi has alleged that some miscreants have fired shots at his car when he was returning to Delhi after campaigning in Uttar Pradesh's Meerut. Now, no one was injured, but his car tires, he said in a tweet, were punctured. Now, the incident is being probed by Hapur police, and one person has been arrested so far. In a tweet, he said, and I quote, "A while ago, shots were fired at my car at Chicharji toll gate. 4 rounds were fired. There were 3 or 4 people. All of them ran away, leaving the weapons there. My car's tire got punctured. I got into another car and left. We're all safe," end quote. According to PTI, he also urged the Election Commission for an independent probe in this incident. Also in the news, the Maharashtra State Board of Secondary and Higher Secondary Education has announced that offline exams would be held as per previous guidelines. Now, Sharad Gosavi, who is the director of Maharashtra State Board of Secondary and Higher Secondary Education, has said, and I quote, "To avoid overcrowding of students, the number of exam centers have been increased, with every school being made into an exam center, which is students will be allowed to give exams at their own school," end quote. This comes after several students have been protesting outside Education Minister Varsha Gaikwad's residence. The students had demanded that the exams should be held online and not offline because of COVID. Moving on to business news right now, according to the Center for Monitoring of Indian Economy, which looks at the unemployment numbers in the country, India's unemployment rate has witnessed a sharp decline to 6.57% in January, which is the lowest since March 2021, as the country has gradually recovered with easing of restrictions following Omicron cases. While unemployment in urban India stood at 8.16% in January, in rural areas, interestingly, it was at its lowest at 5.84%. Now, in December, the unemployment rate stood at 7.91%, while the urban unemployment rate was at 9.3%. Rural unemployment rate was 7.28%. Moving on to environment news, like we promised you, one piece of information we give you every single day. According to data by European Environment Agency, severe floods and other extreme weather have cost Europe about €500 billion in the past 4 decades, with Germany, France, and Italy being the worst hit countries. Now, between 90,000 and 1.42 lakh deaths were attributed to weather and climate related events over the period between 1980 and 2020. Out of these, the majority of them were from heat waves. The data also said that extreme weather has cost Europe about €500 billion over 40 years. On to news coming in from across the world right now, focusing on Ukraine crisis at the top of international news. Russia's deputy foreign minister has said that the US's decision to deploy more troops is a destructive step that makes it harder to reach a compromise over the Ukraine crisis. This comes after the Pentagon said 2,000 US troops would be sent from North Carolina to Poland and Germany, and a further 1,000 already in Germany would go to Romania. Now, the move is in response to Russia's deployment of an estimated more than 1.25 lakh troops at the border of Ukraine. So far, while US and other countries are saying that if Russia plans on invading Ukraine, it will be disastrous, Russia has so far denied, saying that it will not invade Ukraine. Meanwhile, according to a report by The Guardian, in a phone call, Prime Minister Boris Johnson has told Vladimir Putin that he will make a tragic miscalculation if he invades Ukraine. Now, Mr. Johnson refused to backtrack on NATO's open door policy, saying, and I quote, "All European democracies have a right to aspire to NATO membership. This right fully applies to Ukraine." End quote. Now, Putin and Johnson agreed that they had been able to cooperate over Iran, Afghanistan, and climate change. And The Guardian said that it also added that they needed to, and I quote, to apply this spirit of dialogue to the current tensions in order to find a peaceful resolution. End quote. Also in the news, US President Joe Biden has said that the leader of the Islamic State group, Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurayshi, was killed during an overnight raid in Syria's northwestern Idlib province. Now, the raid targeted the IS leader who took over as the head of the militant group on the 31st of October 2019. In a statement, Joe Biden said, and I quote, "Thanks to the skill and bravery of our armed forces, we have taken off the battlefield Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurayshi, the leader of ISIS." End quote. He also said that all Americans involved in the operation returned safely. And before we wrap things up here on this bulletin, one piece of good news, it's also science news. Union Minister Jitendra Singh has said that Chandrayaan-3 mission of the Indian Space Research Organization is scheduled to launch in August 2022. Now, in a written reply to a question in the Lok Sabha, Singh said ISRO is currently working on its third lunar mission, including based on lessons from the semi-successful Chandrayaan-2 missions and suggestions of national experts. That brings us to the end of this bulletin. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.